Alright everyone, welcome to a sort of a different video I'm making. Now this isn't a let's play video or anything of the sort, this is just going to be a talking episode. Well, rather, not really an episode at all. Today I want to talk about 7 Days to Die and the problems it currently faces, along with how it could potentially improve. And I know the devs did that live stream to kind of see if they can maybe address some of the problems that people do have. But I just want to give my 2 cents. Not that anybody really cares, but I figured why not, you know. So the first thing I want to mention and talk about is the overall design decisions that have been changed over the years to make 7 Days a completely different game. Now, what does that mean? Well, essentially, the long and the short of it is that they have added or removed features that promote experimentation and kind of add to the overall sandbox. And that's another thing. The whole sandbox aspect of the game doesn't really exist anymore. At least not in the conventional sense. Because you're kind of forced down a certain route, which I'll get to. Yeah, if you're wondering why I'm kind of just winging it, I don't have a script or anything. I'm just kind of doing this off the cuff. I figured it would be more genuine if I didn't make a script or do anything like that. And the gameplay in the background, that doesn't really matter. I just wanted something for you folks to look at while I'm talking. But the first thing I want to cover is the new features that are actually a good idea. Because I like to start with positives, and then we can get into the negative things, or what I believe are negatives. And of course, if you have any opinions, feel free to pop in the comments, even if it's defending the Fun Pimps, saying yes, their decision is a good idea. By all means, let me know. So the first thing is that I do like about the current version is you do have a lot of options when it comes to survival. In terms of like food and rank, I feel like it's good to have options, but it also comes with a slight downside in which survival isn't hard in the slightest, because to my knowledge the difficulty doesn't actually impact how hungry or thirsty you get. I might be wrong though, but I'm pretty sure it's just damage and stuff. Which I mean is fine, because if not it would be kind of a nightmare. But yeah, I want to mention the fact that the RPG-ification of the game isn't necessarily a problem, but I think it should have been something that was added on top of the already existing game, rather than replacing things. And we'll get to that in the negative section, but just so you know, that's going to be coming up soon. Another good thing I do actually like is the variety of zombies. I do think there could be a little bit more in terms of variety. And I don't mean just different t-shirts and stuff, I mean like they're technically the same kind of zombie, but the models are different. If you play the game for even one playthrough, you'll see the same zombies time and time again. And I know that, you know, that's just a small thing, it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative, but I just figured I'd mention it. I feel like the art direction as well is pretty good, like they seem to be really good at actually making the models and like how certain things look. I think they've kind of hit the nail on the head in the design choices they want to go for, but certain things do actually stick out as not really being that great. The overall quality over time is vastly improved, which is nice. The POI design as well is pretty good, but one thing I will say is I don't think every POI should essentially be an RPG dungeon. And if you've played the current game, you know exactly what I mean. Like, oh, you work your way through this set path, fighting enemies along the way, and eventually you get a bunch of goodies. There's nothing wrong with that idea on paper, it's just the fact that every single POI, to my knowledge, is like that. Where you do a bit of fighting, you do a bit of looting along the way, and you get your big main loot at the end. Accompanied by a bunch of zombies. And I mean, that's fine. Like, the idea, again, is fine, but I don't think every POI should be that way. I think there should be different kinds of design in the interiors. That's just me though. Now we're going to start getting into the negatives. I know I did say a lot of positives, but again, this is off the cuff, and from what I remember, like everything else you could say, oh, that's well designed, that's fine. Like everything has a certain level of quality, and like that's a standard, so take that with a grain of salt. Like, it's definitely playable. I'm not saying it's an unplayable game, because it definitely isn't, or definitely is playable, is what I should say. Again, I'm sorry if I misspeak. I kind of have brain problems, but we're not going to get into that. But the first thing I want to mention about the negatives, the progression. We got to talk about this. So, the first thing, now if you don't know what I mean in terms of progression, it's self-explanatory, but just in case you've never played the game and by some miracle you clicked on this video interested, anytime you make any kind of forward momentum, anytime you learn something or anytime you get something that improves your overall game, that's what I would call progression. Now this could be a new weapon, a new tool, a new perk, anything like that, a new POI that you want to live in. Anything to that description is what I would call progression, right? Now, the version I'm playing in the background of this video is Alpha 16.4. I've been doing a series on it and I quite like it, and something I noticed pretty much instantly is the randomness and the quantity of loot. In the current game, every container pretty much has something in it in the current game. In Alpha 16, there's a good chance the container you search has absolutely nothing in it at default settings. And I feel like that makes a bit of sense because it is an apocalypse. And I don't have a problem necessarily with containers having at least something in them. I think that's fine, honestly. But pair that with the fact that a lot of loot has been removed with the updates, it kind of leads to you kind of getting the same couple of items in every single house, making survival pretty much a non-existent feature. Now, there are times where you'll be put in a situation where you don't have enough food or water, and, you know, you suffer the penalties of such a thing, but it rarely happens unless you are completely new to the game and don't really know how it functions. So the first main thing I need to talk about in terms of progression, the magazines. Here we go. So the magazines are, well, they actually are quite old. In terms of, the game's kind of always had magazines. I don't know about the really old alphas, but at least Alpha 16, that has books that you can read. But there's a difference. These are schematics for items that once you read the schematic, you can make the equivalent item. So if you read a hunting rifle schematic, you can then build yourself a hunting rifle and also repair it. Makes sense, because how would you know how to build or repair something without a schematic? That makes perfect sense to me. And if that's the way it works, I wouldn't have a problem. But in the current game, the game essentially boils down to you being a bookworm and not knowing how to do a single thing without reading 10,000 books beforehand, or magazines in this case. So this is basically how it works. Just say, we'll use the forges and the crafting stations as an example. Just say you want the forge. You need to read enough magazines to level that skill up to be able to craft this forge, to get the recipe for it. And on paper, it doesn't sound that bad. On paper, which is ironic because it's magazines, but the problem is less because, oh, you read the magazines to learn how to make a forge. That's how you learn everything. That's how you learn how to craft absolutely everything in the entire game, other than the things you start with. And as you might be able to tell, that kind of becomes a problem. That's all you do. The main focus of your gameplay while you're looting is you hoping to get magazines, because magazines are all that matters. A good example is, like, just say you want to craft a certain piece of armor, and we'll get to the armor in a sec, but just say you want to craft a certain piece and it's heavy, and you don't have you don't have enough books, you'll need to go and hunt for those books. And most of the time, the traders won't have what you need. And we'll get to traders in a moment as well. Now again, on paper, the idea of reading books to get better at something isn't terrible. I think the way it should be done is, it's not the only path to increasing your skill at something. Because in Alpha 16, the version that you're watching in this footage, that doesn't have the books to learn at all. Well, it has the schematics, but we're talking about like the magazines. They don't exist in this version. The way you get better at something in this version is by doing the actual thing. Like, just say you want to get better at mining, you need to do mining. You want to get better at fighting with a club, you fight with a club. It's as simple as that. And I feel like that's a better system, but the magazines could have been added on top of that. Like, every so often you get a point into mining or, you know, crafting armor, you know, things like that by doing the actual thing. And the magazines could have simply added a few points into that skill. They could have kept the magazines, but done it that way. Now, I get the counter argument to this. It's grindy, it's annoying, and it takes ages. That is true. But that could simply be fixed by the perks that already exist. If you invest perk points into that, you level up the skill faster as well. That could have been the way they done it. That's just an idea I'm throwing out there. I do think the perk balance in 2.0 is a bit scuffed. It was kind of scuffed beforehand, but in 2.0 it's really scuffed, and again we'll get to that. But I think the magazines should be additive and not the sole way to improve your craft. I think there was a misstep to do such a thing, because like all you're doing is hunting for books. And that forces you, because players will optimize their game no matter what. So in doing the thing with the magazines, it causes players to actually optimize the game so much that they pretty much remove the magazine mechanic entirely, which we'll get to in the perk system, but just know that is a thing you can actually do. You could optimize the magazines in a way where you pretty much can do all of them within the first 1 week or 2 weeks of playing, within 2 hordes basically. The second part of progression that needs to be mentioned is one that everybody knew was coming. It's time to talk about traders. Or rather, the over-reliance of traders. You see, in the old days, I can't believe I'm saying that, but in the olden days, in the older alphas, traders existed, and they couldn't give you quests. I don't know why quests were actually added, but some of the older ones, they can't give quests. They're a vendor, plain and simple. You go there with items, you sell maybe a bit, you buy maybe a little bit. They were a convenience option. They were another option for getting a random amount of goods, like a trader in real life, you know? They don't have absolutely everything you could ever need. Granted, traders don't usually, but if you unlock all of them, you pretty much have no reason to loot. Ever. Because you could just go to the specific trader and buy it off them. Unless they don't have it, or you bought them all. But what I mean by over-reliance on traders is they've become less of a convenience and more of a necessity with every single update. And in 2.0 it's pretty much the way to progress. Period. Because you're already going to be looting places anyway, so you might as well do quests, because it's just extra rewards on top of it. And you can kind of see where that starts to become a problem. It's less explore the apocalypse and gain new items and loot and, you know, find cool things. It's more, go do this RPG quest. Clear. Sometimes you'll get quests for the exact same POI within a couple days of each other, and because it's close, you'll do it, the same content, you just went through it again, because why wouldn't you? You already know how it is, so you can get through it quicker. And it's also the fact that the traders, like, they pretty much remove the survival aspect, because they have vending machines, and not necessarily for food, but for drinks, vending machines are cracked. They've tried to nerf water multiple times, and, you know, food, and it's never worked. They're like, oh, we'll remove glass jars, which makes no sense because drinks are contained in jars, but once you drink them, they just disappear. You know, I don't understand it. F and shout for glass jars, okay? We'll start a movement. But the glass jars are a small version of the bigger issuance. The devs punishing players for optimizing the game, or what I like to call it, the fun pimps removing fun. Now, do you not feel a sense of accomplishment for saving up all your glass jars and going for a big water run and knowing that you're good on water for ages? Is that not a great idea? Do you not feel like you've earned that because you've you've looted and you've accumulated these glass jars, or you've crafted them with sand in your forge. Nah, let's remove that whole aspect where, you know, you can get more and more drinks and that causes you to want to make more advanced drinks. No, let's remove that entirely. Here, take these dew collectors that make you water every day. I want to mention dew collectors. Actually, I'll mention them right now. Dew collectors are fucking pointless. I'm just gonna say it. Now, you might think that, oh, on paper, they're actually quite good. You get a couple of bottles of water every day. Granted, it's murky water, I think. I don't know because I've actually never used them. And that's kind of gonna tie into my argument. Dew collectors are pretty much fucking pointless. Because all they do is make water, I think once or twice a day, I can't remember. And you know, that doesn't sound that bad, but it also generates heat. And if you don't know what that means, it means that you're gonna get screamers. And screamers will come up to you, scream in your face, and summon an entire horde of zombies to pester you while you're trying to get something else done. And things that simply collect water do that. Like for the forge and like other workstations that are like automated or on fire, that makes sense, but these are static objects that simply collect water. That's all they do, and they generate heat. There's a reason I've never made dew collectors. One, they're just pointless, but two, you could just simply go up to any vending machine at any time and buy it completely out. Just buy all the drinks, all the teas, all the waters, all the coffee. Because why wouldn't you? They're very inexpensive. And eventually you'll have a stockpile of drinks that you'll never run out of. That's how I've played the game, and I've never been punished for it. So that's how I will continue to play the game. Because it seems like it's designed that way. And let's just say, you know, you don't want to use the actual vending machine because you think it's too cheesy or anything like that. Okay, fine. Toilets exist. You will get enough murky water by just simply looting toilets after a couple days to boil into clean water to drink and make other consumables. I'm dead serious. If you get your looting stage up a little bit, you will nearly be guaranteed to get murky water in every single toilet. So there'll be times where, you know, there's nothing in the vending machine that can help you. But you'll loot toilets and you'll get exactly what you need. So again, it makes the whole limiting of water thing completely pointless. The next thing I want to mention is the fact that the traders, they sell a good amount of stuff, but usually they never sell the thing you actually need. And I know that's kind of like a pet peeve, I understand that, but like Trader Wrecked for example, I hate the guy. I'm pretty sure everybody on God's green earth hates the fuck. And nothing against the voice actor, I'm sure he does a great job, you know, at conveying how much of a prick Wrecked is. But he's the food guy. But most of the time he doesn't really sell food that's helpful. Like he sells cans that are actually cheaper and he sells cans. Sorry, I'm blanking. It's been a long day. He sells cans of food usually, and maybe like one prepared food or like two maybe. But the cans are actually cheaper in the vending machine, so there's no point buying them off him, and he's supposed to be the food guy. But yet he's got fuck all food. It's not the fact that he doesn't have the best food in the game, that's not my point. It's the fact that you can't really get any consistent food off him whatsoever. Like maybe you'll get one hunger bar full, maybe two before he restocks. That's it. Like, come on. At some point, you're not going to go to Rex specifically to keep fed. You're just never going to do that. You're going to get more from looting anyway. It's funny how some of the traders, they just have these little things that make you not want to interact with them. Wrecked is a good example. He's such a prick that you actually, like, you want to turn his voice off. He becomes that annoying. Like, every single time you come in from a quest, or you go to get a quest, he just has some snidey remark that makes you want to punch his face in. And I get it, that's probably the design, like, that's the point. But it becomes it goes past that, and it gets to the point where you just don't want to interact with him whatsoever. Which leads to players rushing through his quests just to simply get away from him because he's that much of an asshole. Like, I don't understand why they couldn't make it so, like, once you start, he hates your guts, but after you do a couple quests for him, his voice line changes to be less of a prick, and he's more like, oh, you're alright, you know? And he does actually have a couple of voice lines like that. So I'm like, why can't he, like, you know, why can't traders have two states? Like, early state, where, you know, they're not really sure about you, they don't know if they should trust you yet. and then late state where they are more comfortable with your presence and they're okay with you coming in and helping them out. Just a small thing. So now I want to mention the kind of RPGification of the game. The game already had RPG elements beforehand, but now it's kind of right in your face. And on paper, the RPG systems aren't bad. I think it's fine, but it removes sandbox elements as well. A good example is the candy. The candies are a good idea, but they're essentially magic potions. Like, oh, here's one that makes your loot slightly better. Here's one that guarantees lockpicking. Here's one that shocks people, I guess. Here's one that removes all fall damage, which you'll never buy. Here's one that gives you slightly more health and regeneration, which no one's ever bought because they don't show up enough. And I think there's one that does sneaking, and one that's good at trading. Like, it gives you more, like, you get more money for selling and buying stuff is cheaper. And on paper, again, they're not bad ideas, but they're essentially magic potions. Let's just keep it 100. Actually, most of the consumable items are literally magic potions. Like, one of them, I think, gives you like a point into one of your attributes, you know, stuff like that, where you can look at that and like, it's a food item, yeah, but it's a potion. It gives you magical effects, which, I mean, is fine, but, you know, they could just be more honest about it, I guess. It's like, it's a magic potion. Let's just call it what it is. Now, am I saying they should rebrand all the items that give you a buff to magic potions? No. I think the ideas themselves are fine, but I think it's the way they're displayed is the issue. That's kind of a reoccurring thing where it's the way things are presented to you, the player, that the things become an issue. The armor system is actually quite good, like the new one, but I kind of miss the old one. So we'll go over the both of them. We'll do the old one first to give you context. The old armor system, well, actually, I could open up the inventory and kind of version 16 I'm working. So as you can see, there is a bunch of slots. Some for clothes and some for armor, right? And that's a good system. So what happened? We went from a bunch of customization options where you can make your character look exactly how you wanted, with all of these different slots, into 4 slots. And I don't mind the RPG armor thing. I think it's fine, honestly, if that's the route you want to go down, but like, why did you give us less options? Like, they could have just kept the armor system the way it was, but made it so the clothes only contribute towards temperature and stuff, and the armor only contributes towards perks and defense. Why couldn't they have just done that? Now, I do get the idea of the armors also becoming the outfits. Like, I get it, but you can't color them. That's a small pet peeve. I know they're said they're working on it, but I mean, if I was making the game, I would have made sure if you're gonna introduce all these new armors, I would at least let you dye them immediately. I wouldn't make players wait for that. And the armor perks are very unbalanced. The reason I say this is because some of them are game busting and some of them are actually pointless. There are several pieces that do the exact same fucking thing, and there are several pieces that do a thing that is never going to be helpful. It's funny because they put all this work into the armor system, and there's debatably a best set of armor, which is, I'm pretty sure that this is going off memory, so bear in mind. In editing, you'll probably see images and stats as to what these armor pieces actually do. So, like, at their maximum level, just to give you context. So I think it's called the Nomad headgear or helmet, which I'm pretty sure makes you use less food and water overall. Like, I think it's 50% if I remember correctly. Next we have I think it's called the Raider torso or something like that. It basically something along the lines of reducing, or it heals them faster. I can't remember which. And then there's the biker boots, lowers how much stamina you use for melee attacks, I think. The boots are the worst out of all of these because the boots don't really have any good perks whatsoever, like at all, and the ones that are good are very situational. And then we have the goat, the big one. I think they're called preacher gloves. I may be wrong. Well, you'll see what their names and their descriptions are on screen, so just bear that in mind. But can you see? Do I even need to explain why the thing they do is overpowered. Do I even need to explain it? Just look at what the text says and come to your own conclusion. And this is like a survival game. Imagine if there was a survival... Imagine that effect in any other survival game, or any other game for that matter, with that effect on one single piece of armor. 60% to all damage. What? Did nobody think that this was a bit too good? Am I the only one that thinks it's really overpowered? And I love it. I don't want them to change it. I love the fact that the gloves are as good as they are. Mainly because the fact that they look good. So we've talked about all of these different RPG elements. We've talked about all of the progression stuff. So I think we need to address 2.0 specifically now, because that's where a bulk of these problems came from. So let's just get into it. So the first thing we'll talk about is biome progression. Now, if you didn't know this, the older versions actually had biome progression already. This is how the biome system worked previously. This place is cold, so wear something that resists cold. Or this place is hot, wear something that resists hot. And that was it. I'm pretty sure there was a radiation zone, and if there was, you'd probably need a hazmat suit. Again, that might not be right. I'm just going based on memory. But you get the point. Wear something equivalent to your environment. It's very simple. And they gutted its corpse, like Michael in FNAF Sister location, and turned it into essentially a rotten core, like a rotten skin suit that has the illusion of weather. The new weather system essentially boils down to, if you don't have this stupid scout badge for doing random challenges we put before you, you take damage. What? Wait, so the weather doesn't affect your body or like limit your stamina, it just straight up hurts you. Wow, what a great idea. I mean, that's so ingenious that I'm pretty sure a 5-year-old could have came up with that. And again, it's not the idea necessarily, it's the implementation again. I'll say it time and time again. It's the implementation of these things that makes them not really pan out. Like for example, in this version, Alpha 16, if you go to the cold area, you'll get cold, you'll use more food, you know, stamina will regen a bit slower if you keep getting colder, and then eventually, after a while, you'll get hypothermia and take damage. What was wrong with that idea? What was wrong with it? That worked, and they removed it, and then added a worse version. Now, you could say that, oh, they're trying to make it more streamlined. If it is their attempts to streamline that whole system, it was a bad streamline. Simple as. They boiled down complex weather systems, or temperature systems I should call it, into you haven't done challenges to get scout badge, you take damage. And you survive with smoothies, really? Oh, how do I protect myself from radiation? No, not a hazmat suit, silly. A smoothie. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, lads. And I know they're obviously gonna fix it. They've said that they will change some things about it, so fingers crossed they will, you know. Why was it like this to begin with? That's my point. Did they not look at what they had and said, players might not like this. This is a bit silly. And also, it's the fact that it funnels you down a progression route of going the biomes that they want you to go down, which is also the way in which the traders have you go in, like, the progression. And I just need to slip this in here, because I can't think of a single place to put it in this video, but I want to mention it. The trader that in the Wasteland is fucking pointless. He's the last guy you actually meet and get access to, and he's the armor guy. I can't even remember his name. But the trader in the Wasteland is pointless because by the time you get to him, you will, or most likely have, either level 5 or level 6 armor, you know, the max levels. Now, there is a chance that you don't. I find that very unlikely. Even if you speedrun the game, you'll get enough through loot and crafting that you'll have maxed out armor, so the armor he sells you is pointless, and none of it is above 5 or 6 anyway, so you're never gonna buy them, ever, unless he has one that you really want in a much higher level, but that's extremely rare. So let's talk about storms. You know, it's the title of the update, Storms Brewing. So how do those storms brew, you might ask? If you're out in them, you take damage, and that's it. Wow, what a thrilling idea. Like, I don't understand why their default is, oh, how do we make this an issue for the player? Make them take damage. Wow, how interesting. Should we limit the player's stats and, you know, make them problem solve and, you know, use their brain? No, just make them take damage. Fuck it. What if a player doesn't have any medical items and they're struggling with health and they're already outside when a storm hits? Oh, well, I guess they're fucked. You see the problem, how it can lead to situations where there's absolutely no counter, where there's nothing you can do about it? Who thought that was a good idea? Who? Now, there is a counter argument. It's like, but it causes you to clear up POIs you wouldn't have cleared out previously. And that's a fair, thing to add. But my counter argument is, I don't care. Let me play the game I want. I shouldn't have to hide away. It's timeout time, It doesn't make sense to me. And I know they're going to change that as well, but it doesn't mean it wasn't like that to begin with, so I'm still going to mention it. So now it's time to mention the 2 enemies we got in 2.0 or Storms Brewing Update, whatever you want to call it. And they're called the Plague Splitter. Is it Splitter or Spitter? I can't remember. And the Frost Claw. Or as I like to call them, the guy from Dead Rising and a troll from Skyrim. The Spitter isn't the worst of the 2. The Spitter on paper is fine. I mean, having bugs infest a zombie, that's been done a million times. It's not a terrible idea. But what is this fucking Skyrim Elder Scrolls looking ass doing in my zombie game? It's not a zombie. That's just not a zombie. It's an RPG monster that you just made up. It's just, okay, why is it here? It's simply a troll from Skyrim. I don't care what anybody says, that's what it is. And again, it's not a bad idea on paper, but this is a zombie game. This ain't a zombie. This is Chuck Norris in a winter suit. I don't know what to call it. Actually, that would be better. Chuck Norris in a winter outfit. Boom. There's your idea. Now, I do know that they plan to change both of these enemies to make them more in line with the rest of the zombies and blah blah. I get it. Again, it was like this to begin with, and I want to know why. Did they not take a look at the Frost Claw and be like, is this going too far? Is this a step too far? A border has been crossed. This isn't a zombie. This is an RPG monster that you would see in Skyrim or Oblivion. I'm going to say Oblivion because Oblivion's better. One thing I want to mention is the recent ideas they've had in terms of making the game better and, providing the player with more options. And this will probably be the thing before the conclusion. So what they said in livestream, they answered a bunch of questions. They're going to work on tinting your armor or dyeing it, whatever you want to call it, which finally. And they said that bandits are going to take even longer, which, I mean, it's been like 9 years at this point, but alright, fine. Take your time, whatever. We'll see the bandits when we see them, I suppose. But the main thing I want to mention is that they had several ideas for new features that I want to bring up. So the first one I want to mention is legendary weapons. And this isn't a direct quote, but they basically said, oh, what if you got legendary weapons with special effects that you only get through looting? And I'm like, that's a great idea. But then I kind of thought to myself, why does that sound familiar? Oh wait, Darkness Falls. Darkness Falls has that. Okay, maybe it's just a coincidence. Let's see what other suggestions they have, alright? Let's take a look. Oh, well, add in new crafting stations, or stations in general. Wow, that's a great idea. What ones do you have? A beehive. And a chicken coop. And an electric stove. Guess what has all 3 of those things? Darkness Falls. Huh. I feel like there's a common theme in all of these quote-unquote new additions. And they're like, oh, don't worry, we'll give you a bigger backpack. So I assume they mean like more slots. Guess what has more slots as well? Darkness Falls. Now, am I claiming that the devs are stealing things from Darkness Falls? Absolutely not. I didn't say that. I never said that at all. I'm just simply listing the facts. It just so happens that all the things they're going to add just so happen to be features in Darkness Falls. Could just be a complete coincidence. I promise. It's just a coincidence, guys. And those, those variants of zombies with different colours that are worse than radiated zombies. I wonder where they got that idea from. Let's just, I've got a note here. It's just let me take a look here. Darkness Falls has that. Oh, okay. But guys, it's just a coincidence, I assure you, alright? You get the point, right? I don't need to keep going on and on. So, now it's time for the conclusion. So, to conclude this kind of ramble, rant, whatever you want to call it is, I'll say this. If they want to make the game they want to make, that's fine. They can do whatever they want. We can't stop them. But we can moan, bitch and complain about it, which is what we will do every single time they add something stupid or something that we don't like. Now I think it's fine that they have the ability to turn some of these features off, but let's just think about this for a second. They add in features that the community, that they think that the community will hate, or at least some of us will. So they added a toggle with the update to remove the new features. Do I even need to say anything? Imagine, alright, okay, here's another example. Imagine an Ark Survival Evolved, you know, the game where you tame dinosaurs? Imagine in that game there was a system where certain dinosaurs kept getting on your nerves and you could just flick a switch to turn them off. That would be the devs admitting that they made a bad idea and they're just giving you an option to turn it off. It's the same principle. They're like, players might not like this, and instead of fixing the problem, we're only going to fix it when we're called out on it, basically. At least that's how I see it. So a couple things I want to mention. I want to thank you for listening to my stupid little rant. If you agree, if you have any takes, pop them all in the comments, even if it's to say that my mic quality is shit, or that my takes are dog shit. By all means, go ahead, tell me. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'll try and reply to any comments, even ones that are disrespectful, because it's fun to interact with people. So I want to shout out Just Rob again. I keep shouting him out. I'm gonna keep doing it because he's a homie. He makes 7 days videos. He says it how it is, and I respect him for it. So if he's listening by some miracle, how's it going? Love what you do. I don't know if I'll make more videos like this in the future, talking about news or talking about problems with the game. As you might be able to tell, this isn't my typical content. I'm more of a let's play type thing, and I know that's kind of dead or whatever, but that's the videos I grew up watching. That's the videos I want to make, and I'm gonna make them regardless of who watches them. So enjoy or go away, I don't know. But anyway, hope you folks enjoyed, and if you did, feel free to leave a like, leave your feedback in the comments, anything you got to say. Even if it's a feature that you want added to 7 days, or something you want removed that you absolutely despise. And we'll catch you here in the apocalypse another time. Bye guys.